The primary purpose of any flanged assembly is to connect piping systems in such a manner as to produce a leak-free environment. Hazardous and combustible fluids, in addition to extreme pressures and temperatures, require the utmost in safety precaution. Creating a leak-proof seal between two connecting metal surfaces is almost impossible. Therefore, gaskets perform a vital function in plant safety. Using a gasket softer than two adjoining flanges is an excellent way to eliminate the possibility of a fluid escape. Gaskets can be made of materials such as rubber, neoprene, Teflon, lead, or copper. When bolts are tightened and flange faces are drawn together, the gasket material will conform to any imperfections in the flange faces to create a uniform seal. The following figure demonstrates the three types of gaskets that can be found in piping systems. They are full face, flat ring, and metal ring. Full face gaskets are used on flat face flanges. Flat ring gaskets are used on raised face flanges. And finally, metal rings are used on ring-type joint flanges. Now, the thickness of a gasket, as highlighted here, must be accounted for when dimensioning the piping system. The typical gasket has a thickness of 1/8 of an inch. Keep in mind, at every occurrence of two flanges joining one another, a gasket thickness must be added to the length of the pipe components, as depicted here. In this example, you can see that a flat ring gasket does occupy space. Though it is only 1/8 of an inch thick, a gasket cannot be ignored. Now, regarding ring-type joint flange assemblies, as seen here, the following figure gives the spacing measurements as the J dimension. Notice here that this dimension will vary depending on the size and pound rating of the flange. This is an important consideration to keep in mind when dimensioning piping runs that have ring-type joint connections. This dimensioning chart is of course available in the downloadable resource section. Now, keep in mind, for each instance of a gasket or ring, gap spacing, as highlighted here, must be reflected in the dimensions shown on a piping drawing. In this regard, tick marks are used to indicate each location where a gasket or ring gap has been included in the dimensioning of the piping system. Tick marks are drawn approximately 1/8 of an inch long and are placed on piping drawings near the location where a gasket or ring is to be installed. The following figure illustrates this concept. In this example, the tick mark is highlighted here in blue. This second example depicts two tick marks, one on each end of a valve, that have been included in the total dimension between the faces of the two flanges. The dimension would be the sum total of one valve and two gaskets. Let's have a closer look. So, the total length of this pipe assembly is equal to the sum of the face-to-face length of the valve and the thickness of two gaskets. The face-to-face length of a 6-inch, 150-pound rating raised face flange valve is equal to the following. You can find this dimension in the valve dimensioning chart that you can find in the downloadable resource section. The thickness of two gaskets is equal to 1/4 of an inch. Recall, the thickness of one gasket is 1/8 of an inch. So the total length is as follows. Quite simple, right? Okay, now as an exercise for you, try to find out the total length of a 12-inch, 300-pound rating raised face flange gate valve with 2 gaskets.